Hello and welcome to another episode of Alta Heron. My name is Rob Runacres and I'm joined by my friend Han Jodlin, who is going to be introducing tonight's episode.
Yes, hello. We are joined tonight by Francesco Loda of Accademia Romana di Armi in Italy. And Francesco will be talking about his work in HEMA as well as some of the major events in which he is involved. So I just want to say hello, Francesco.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Hello.
I'm going to start right away and ask you, your core system is Marcelli. Can you tell us something about his life and his methodology?
Okay, yes. Basing on the historical documents in my possess, Francesco Antonio Marcelli is the last of at least a 3-generation masters from his family that has established a fundamental fencing school in Rome between the last part of the 16th century and more or less the half of the 18th. The Roma Marcelli School was an important center of study for a large part of fencers and masters in that period, leading to the production even of many manuscripts I found in some archive and libraries, long before the publication of the well-known treatise from Francesco Antonio Marcelli, Regole della Scherma, published in 1686, all of them declaring to be part of the same core teaching system of the Marcelli family. Very important things for us that allow us to call it really a school in the modern sense we are used to, and not just a sum of similarities, for example. Then the family, the teaching system has inspired many authors from Sicily to Naples, leading to the born of the Napolitan system school that led itself to the modern fencing more or less at the end of the 19th century. So is the long-lasting system of the Italian fencing.
Okay, so what was it about Marcelli that excited you, that really got you into him?
Well, I love to work on more or less on 15 treatises, but all of them taking parts of the same teachings and fencing systems, because it's a huge quantity of material, all of them oriented in the same way, because all of them declaring to be part of the same system, listing the same chapters, listing real common understanding of fencing in the same way, because they were the same system.
But what I'm actually trying to get to is, at what point did you start reading Marcelli and start to discover that for him this was the thing you were really becoming interested in above other things?
Well, I discovered Marcelli more or less on the 2006, starting to researching on him and slowly on his family and on this large system in the 2006-07, and then I continued. What I love in the system, you asked me?
Yeah.
Okay. For example, I love that compared to other systems or compared to other single author, also the biggest one, the Roman Marcelli's family's one is more a theoretical system than a collection of techniques. It means that these treatises give you a deep way to understand fencing and dealing with each weapon, not just rapier. This is a fundamental different approach. It's a way to understand fencing broadly, and honestly, I use it a lot. For example, in competitions, not only rapier one, and this is a background that I really love in them.
Okay, is this why you, I mean, when you give your workshops, you often say that it is the answer to destreza.
Absolutely.
This common philosophy, this theoretical system, is that what you're getting at when you're talking about the answer to destreza, as opposed to, say, as you mentioned, these earlier authors that are collection of techniques?
Yes, is absolutely that sense is the most similar thing to the stress theory I ever see. It's not a case probably that the Roman system through the Napolitan school had a lot of contacts with the Stresa system. I mean, obviously, the Stresa system imported in Italy during the 16th and 17th century in the realm of Naples. I suppose, basing on the documents, I mean, I suppose that the two systems study themselves a lot and improve themselves a lot, one each other. I mean.
But you don't think there's actually an interrelation? You think it's more, well, you know, they do this, so we need to do something to fight it, rather than sharing?
I have this. I think that when you fight with someone and you are good, and you are a good fencer and an open-minded one, when you fight with someone, you are also sometimes stealing someone to him, stealing the most important fencing part he does. You are learning through your fighting, and by my opinion, this is the history of the Roman, Napolitan, and Spanish systems. Three systems really in contact, really able to face themselves with a positive approach.
Okay. Marcelli's system is very much based around the single sword, right?
Yeah.
But he also does other forms. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes. Well, of course, the other form, principally Francesco Antonio Marcelli compared the rapier and dagger system as the second one. But in his treatise, we have a nice part, for example, talking about small sword, or talking about how to fence with just one weapon against two, and another part talking about saber, and another, for example, even talking about fighting with a lantern.
Okay.
But obviously, the core of the Marcelli or Francesco Antonio Marcelli system is the single rapier.
Okay, I mean, obviously you're talking to two rapier and dagger fighters
Yep.
predominantly here, so that's of great interest to us. And we know that, you know, in your competition activities, obviously you're very much renowned, certainly in the northern hemisphere, as being a great rapier and dagger fencer.
Yeah.
The thing is with Marcelli is in the 1680s, of course, the dagger is not used as widely as you would have seen in the early part of the century. Is Marcelli using the dagger still as very much a weapon for a complete martial form, or is it something more of interest to perhaps demonstrate some of his philosophies?
Well, I'm hypothesizing during these last years that there is a kind of a regional motivation to this. I mean that, of course, in Rome in that period, but also before, the single sword was the most common way to go to the duels. When they scendevano a questione, it means when they were used to fight a duel, they surely used the single one. In the same period, but for example in Naples or in Sicily, the common way to fight a duel for the good part of the society was surely rapier and dagger. This is just a scratch on the surface, obviously. But for example, I discovered some, how to say in English, proclam from the papal state and from the realm of Naples according the permission to use in the Papal State of the single sword. In the Napoli realms, for example, the sword and dagger one. I mean that fencing influenced society as much as society has influenced fencing.
Okay, fascinating, because of course, as we're seeing, say in France, for example, you really are seeing the death of the dagger by this time. It's not covered in the treatises again in the Low Countries and that. So you've actually got a maintenance of tradition then, going much later then.
Yeah, but Italy, I don't know if probably Italy has this general problem. It's not easy to talk about fencing in Italy. It's easier to talk about fencing in some region, or at least in some city. For example, sword and dagger was very common in the Bolognese, nella scuola bolognese, in the Bolognese place. And Rome has a particular statute probably on this.
Okay, and just finally on Marcelli, when does the Marcelli family finish? When do we start to see this fencing school end?
Obviously, I can talk just on the documents I found. The last documents of Francesco Antonio Marcelli I found was in the 1689, and then I found some documents and some manuscripts I'm going to publish in some months, of students and masters depending directly from the Marcelli's family in the beginning and the half of the 18th century. As I found many manuscripts coming from the half of the 17th century, manuscripts made from the students and other masters, students of the other generation of Marcelli's family.
We don't know, basically. We've just got documents stating that there are these students existing, but we don't actually know when it's ending yet.
Yeah. It's easy to understand. Many manuscripts sometimes can be a bad copy for something that you are going to publish in a while. So on your bad copies, it's not so common that you put, for example, 1781. I mean, mostly are personal copy of their systems, mostly are personal copy of their fencing ideas, but sometimes we find something more articulated. Sometimes just a kind of how to say in English? Sorry, I don't remember the word. When you take some note. That.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've only got some very indirect references.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that covers Marcelli. Yeah. Hans, do you have some questions?
I want you to tell us a little bit about the event that you're hosting in Rome now in March. Can you do that?
Okay. We are going to organize the HEMA Rome 2016. HEMA, as you may know, is the first Italian union of professional teachers for HEMA, recognized from an Italian law called Law 4/2013. So, as a professional union, we are going to organize this event that will be from the 4th of March to the 6th. Is a larger one, It will be in the event we are going to offer a lot of tournaments. For example, the Open Rapier 1, that should be up to 100 participants, one long sword invitational, and one sword and buckler open up to 50, one side sword 15, and woman rapier 1 and woman sword and buckler 1. And we offer a lot of workshop too, from some of the best teachers from Europe and US. This year we will have Alberto Bonprezzi and Tom Puey from Spain, Cosimo Bruno from Italy, Chris Chatfield, Daniel Jacquet. We will have also Anushir Korasani, Anton Koutovic. From the US we will have Greg Melee and Jake Norwood. We will have Axel Pettersson. We will have also a kind of Runacre, some of them.
Yeah.
Never heard about
And you're working for charity by having the own.
Yeah, but we do love.
That's it, maestro. Yes.
I'm joking. Obviously, he's a fine fencer and a fine researcher, obviously. And we will have for the first time also the maestro Attilio Calatroni, that is a Olympic fencing. Is an Olympic fencer. He won many titles, many world titles, and many Olympic ones. And he will give us a particular lesson based on what we can have from the modern fencing used to be applied in the historical one. So it's a big thing. Then we'll have original treatise and weapon exhibition from the Museum of the Martial Arts, patrocinated from Roberto Gotti, that probably you know, and a lot of fun and sparring, a lot of.
Yeah. Okay, but can you also tell us why you decided to have a separate event to Florence this year?
Okay, because our idea was to build really an Italian event. I mean that not just located always in the same city, but able each year to move to other ones. So, for example, Naples, for example, many others. Of course, next year it will be in another one. The Firenze's event of this year isn't organized by us.
All right. Well, you're also flying away to a very special event this week.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us about that? Because this really was a big surprise to us when we heard about it.
So this time I was appointed from the Italian and the Algerian Fencing Federation to bring a team of historical fencers to the Championnat de Méditerranée to take part to the opening ceremony. And the delegation will be composed mostly by HEMA teachers, and for the first time the HEMA will be present in a worldwide event of the International Fencing Federation, even transmitted by satellite. It's an honor for me and for us, and I believe that it will be very good also for all of our HEMA community.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on that one.
Yeah.
You've been in a lot of discussions with sports fencing, Olympic fencing, and obviously you're moving together, and a lot of people in HEMA would be nervous about that because HEMA in many ways grew away from sports fencing. How would you answer that?
Honestly, I don't see that kind of contrast. I mean that for example, we have dialogue and a mutual respect. And we live inside the common house of fencing. Fencing is not just the modern one, it's not just the ancient one, it's the common house. And HEMA, by my opinion, is a wide field, and there is room both for martial arts, both for sport, both for competition, both for research, for methodology, all of this done with a serious approach. So honestly, I don't see the point. Also because I guess that when you get the respect of one of the most important fencing federation in the world, sportive one, Olympic one, it means that your HEMA, your Italian HEMA in our case, is a HEMA worth of a good respect. And so because we have any interest to offer, if not that we do a good work. And so I don't see the point, and I don't like this kind of contrast that for me is a fake one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, though, would be concerned. I'm not saying this is hands on my belief. This is just for the sake of asking the question. A lot of people may say, well, maybe it's because sports fencers are getting worried because so many students are going over to HEMA. Or maybe, you know, some people will say, actually, you know, the competition is becoming too much the main, and it's taking away the desire to learn how to use a martial form in a correct manner, not in a point scoring thing. You know, so these are obviously serious concerns. I mean, I think it's a concern from Hans and my point of view, in that there's a lot of fighting and not much discussion between the parties. So how would you answer those worries?
2 different points. First of all, you should be inside a modern fencing federation to understand. I don't mean you, I mean everyone must be inside in a modern fencing federation to understand which are the concerns of modern fencing federation, instead of suppose, first of all, because if you don't have a direct feeling with them, it's like you are worrying about shadows. Then the things about the competition, I hope I will not be harsh, but it's something like people saying that in the competition you can do the historical techniques. It is fake. If you study, if you are a good fencer, if you study a lot, if you break your bone on this, you can do competition doing historical fencing and not sport modern one without any problem.
Francesco Loda, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you too. You're very kind. Thank you, Hans. Robertino, I said it. Now.